Outer Orange.
We are here today with the world's results. Fuzzy, being the awesome FuzzyParadox that he is, actually got these out insanely fast. Actually, we were watching him do these results literally like when top 8 was happening. We had 4 Gear Chronicle, 2 Bermuda Triangle, 1 Narukami, and 1 Spike Brothers. Now this is actually pretty interesting. I actually was not expecting this much Gear Chronicle to top. It's a little interesting to me. I mean, part of it is the people that entered were pretty strong Gear Chronicle mains, but it is actually interesting to see that this happened. First place was Steam Maidens with Defect. Second place was Highlander with, I believe, Stephen Lee, and the third place was Maxime with also Highlander, right? And then on the 4th place we had Spike Brothers. I don't remember who the player was for Spike Brothers. So that was like the final results. Actually, it doesn't fully make sense to me because I actually thought Highlander was gonna win this, and I'm actually surprised how much people took your Chronicle. But it's like ride down deck into ride down deck, and then we do have the Narukami player, which I believe was Ty Smith, if I remember correctly. And then we have the Spikes player, Carlos. Okay, Dave Beck, Stephen Lee, Solom, and then Carlos. Okay, well, luckily enough, the chat has given you guys the answers. So there we have. Chat will answer for me. I mean, in terms of my predictions, obviously my predictions were wrong, but also my predictions on the assumption that people would take stuff that they might want to consider trying out. And with the month time that we had, there probably wasn't enough time to test specifically for premium, so it makes sense why the results are like this. So Spikes was already performing pretty well. Narukami did get the ban, but I do know that Ty did find a way kind of around Highlander for the most part, so he kind of took what he still felt was comfortable and entered with that. And then obviously we have Highlander, and then we have Gear Chronicle. I do think the representation for Gear Chronicle is a little high. I was expecting it to be a little less, and I was expecting at least 1 Grand Blue to kind of like make it through all this, but I think taking Grand Blue is a little risky during this time. I do know also Sage entered, and I'm pretty sure he was playing Grand Blue as well. And that's pretty much it. Like specifically for this one, I feel like people took like kind of what they wanted to take, that they felt comfortable with, that they thought would be good into Highlander, and that's kind of what we're seeing here. Like I said, I expected to see a little bit more dolls just kind of come back slightly. I did expect bugs to maybe break through, and I was expecting 1 Grand Blue. Honestly, this chart just says the meta hasn't changed that much. Like, it just seems like Maidens kind of dominated a little bit, but to be honest, I really don't even know how powerful Maidens is in comparison to Highlander, because personally to me, I still think Highlander is the best deck, even though I know Maidens won, but it's like ride down into ride down. There could have been so many other things happening. I don't know. It's still best of 1. So I do know way more about V, so I can kind of go into this. Like, I think I mentioned this in the video too, I really did not test for premium recently, especially with the banlist in mind, so I know so little about it. So V, I know a lot of people are kind of angry about this. There's a lot of Gear Chronicle on here, and then we have the 1 Bermuda Triangle, 1 Gold Paladin, 1 Shadow Paladin. Honestly, this is pretty normal. I know people were expecting a little less Maidens. This is correct, but you have to also remember, and this is when I'm going to bring up Nuno actually. So Nuno brought up a really strong point during Friday night's dinner that I completely agree with. Nuno was almost positive that there was going to be a majority Steam Maidens, and not because Steam Maidens is strong, and not saying that it's not strong, it is strong, but the reason why he thought people are going to bring Steam Maidens is because people would feel most comfortable bringing a deck that they topped with. And I actually agree with this. I agree with this a lot. I think people brought the deck that they topped with not knowing exactly what the meta was going to shift into, especially knowing that Maidens was still strong, and that's kind of what we see here. But I do think if we had a little bit more time, and I also think that like as the weeks will go on, I think this might shift a little bit. And I'm not, and like I said, I still think Maidens is good. I'm like, I don't want people thinking, oh, like, you don't think Maidens is good enough, don't you see the 5 tops? Don't worry, I think the deck's good. 3 Force Markers a turn 4. Oh yeah, so we have the Quarter King Rebellion. That's Charlie, which is our 2nd place winner actually for this event. So Charlie kind of sneaked in a little bit of Rebellion. There's like, I think 3 to 4 cards that are just Rebellion cards essentially, and the idea is if you go first, you can Gear Dog into the grade 3 and just go the Rebellion route, as long as it'll damage the Rebellion, and pretty much just force out a bunch of shield of your opponent, have the extra marker, and then go into the Steam Maiden engine with Elu and have a normal game plan. That was the idea behind Rebellion. He did this in the past with Inglissa, and then he changed it over to Rebellion. So actually his previous topping list, which was, I believe, in Canada, he also was not running a 100% like to the T like Steam main list. He also had a couple like tech cards here and there. Let's go ahead and talk about a little bit of Luard, Golds, and Ange. So I believe the Ange deck is like a pure Ange deck. I don't know what the list is, but I'm pretty sure it's pure. And then Golds is running a little bit that core package, so it's like Gurgate and the core package, so they're kind of doing there. And then there's obviously Luard, which I believe is Antonio Todd Jr., who got 3rd place if I remember correctly. And yeah, so this also made a lot of sense. Luard is very strong. strong, and I think he made a good choice. He's at my locals, he's been testing it and all that kind of stuff, so this makes sense to me as well. VANGUARD honestly is really good into a lot of these decks, so in my opinion, it was actually one of the best decks to take in terms of like the ceiling behind it. I think it's a very strong contender. Honestly, all the decks on this list are all good contenders to take. I'm not 100% on the golds list. I'm assuming they like kind of went like for the marker spam and then like finished off with Gurgit, but I'm not 100%. So Orange could be a lot of things. I don't think there's so many ways you could build Orange. It's kind of almost like on the Grim Blue side of things, where there's a lot of ways you could toolbox Orange. I don't know if there's like really a wrong way to build it, as long as you don't build Highlander. So I think you can kind of build it multiple ways. You can go the full Ellie route. You can go like more defense. You can go more offense with Qual like I do. You can go the Nikita route. You can go the Maitreya route. There's just so many different ways you can build it. You can go the Relinko route. You can go the Tier route. You can go mix up both. You can go a little bit of Highlander touch with Betty. There's a lot of different ways you can build the deck. Overall, this pie chart also makes sense. I was expecting a little less maidens, and I was actually expecting a little bit more of the other decks. But also, again, like majority of the people that already qualified with maidens, and Colossus was not killing the deck. It was just lowering the deck's kill potential. So surprised not Davos or Leo. Yes, I was wondering about that too. I will say, if you kind of look at this is a lot of force decks, and I do think Excel into force is pretty rough, unless you're playing something like Gurgit where it just amplifies power regardless. That doesn't really matter. But your early game is pretty rough if you're playing Excel decks against decks like this. So especially since like Anj, Maidens, and VANGUARD were, in my opinion, like the top 3 decks to take personally. So first place was Kevin Cho, right? I believe he took Maidens. Second place was Charlie with the Rebellion Maidens, and the third place was Crow with the VANGUARD list. And I don't know who placed fourth. I assume it was another Maidens, but I'm not 100%. Chances are it was Maidens, but it could also be Golds. I think you guys talked about it was Golds. So it's Charlie's list, and like as you see here, there's that little touch. So it's 3 main cards and then 1 in the starter. The starter could be anything, so it doesn't matter. And he upped Gear Dog, so that way he can like go into this engine or this engine, like whatever he chose to pick. But Gear Dog makes it so accessible to run like stupid stuff like this. It's pretty great. It's only 3 cards, but it works so well. Yeah, he did tell me that he damage check, I think, one of these, and he just couldn't go into this at all. He'll just say screw it. He's running 2 Karunta as well, which is very smart. Karunta into mirror matches is pretty big. You can outplay the Steam Maiden player if you run Karunta, so Karunta is actually just a really good choice. Bottom deck your opponent's pieces like Gear Cat even, or just anything else they just want to see on board. It's a Luar. This is actually an insanely good card too, because you can bottom deck the Interceptors. Let's talk about Standard, since this is the one I casted for. So Standard, we had 3 Youthberg, 2 Orfist, 1 Dragonic Overlord, 1 Ava, and 1 Flagberg. Now I think I got this one pretty well, except for the Leticia. Like Leticia isn't on here, and I did think Greedon might make it in, and Greedon isn't on here. Yeah, Flaggy made it in. I got a chance to cast Flaggy. So this is honestly, a lot of people are pretty surprised about Orfist. I'm not like 100% surprised. I've actually been playing Orfist quite a lot recently, and I've been doing extremely well. And by well, I mean like I've been going 3-1, 4-0. It's all locals runs, but in my testing, I found that Orpheus is actually very powerful. However, I thought Orpheus struggles into Youthberg, and because of that, I actually thought it wasn't going to be like an insanely. I didn't think people would want to take him because of that, but not because of the other matchups. I just think Youthberg is a tough matchup for Orpheus. But here we have the results. So he made it in. Flagberg makes sense. Flagberg is still a good deck. Ava makes sense. Ava's still a good deck. She's been a good deck ever since the promo pretty much got announced. Dragonic Overlord definitely makes sense. I actually thought this might have been the deck that takes it all because of how annoying this deck is, and into Youthberg the matchup's actually very good. And then obviously we saw a bunch of Youthberg, which is to be expected. Most of the people that are playing, if I remember correctly, were playing Youthberg, so this makes sense. And then first place was Youthberg, second place was Orpheus, third place was Ava, and I think fourth place was like Flagberg or something. I don't know the exact. I know the first 3, I believe, but I don't know what fourth place was at all actually. Youth, Orpheus, Youth, Ava. Okay, so Youth, Orpheus, Youth, Ava. That makes sense. And that's why I also thought like Greedon or Gravidia might have a chance in here too, because I think those decks are pretty fine. Youthberg too. Youthberg is good, but I also think that if there's other decks that kind of match up to it, are pretty close to it as well. I do think Orpheus going first with the high roll is pretty strong, but I do still think Youthberg is better. The reason why is because Youthberg farms so well and Orpheus does not farm at all, and because of that farming, that's not there, Youthberg can kind of just keep grinding and grinding and grinding and dealing with the high columns. We actually saw that on stream happen a lot, where the Orphis player was having a lot of trouble keeping up because Youthberg is sitting there with like a 12-13 card hand while Orphis is sitting there with the 4 to 5 card hand, and that's really hard to deal with. But Youthberg's numbers are nowhere near as crazy as Orphis numbers are. Orphis numbers get insane. 70k columns are not a joke. So, but yeah, overall, I think this is pretty spot on too. I honestly, I think Orphis is doing one that people weren't expecting, but I think everything else is actually pretty spot on. So, to be expected. I think a lot of people thought the Orphis was going to be 2 with TC or something. I think that's really just how it is, just 2 with TC instead. I'm not really too sure what happens to the Leticia players. I don't know where they went or how they died or sort of what went down, because we did have Leticia on stream, so they were performing well at some point, but I guess they got knocked out by, I don't know, like a Flagberg player or something. I don't know what happened. Maybe too many Ava players, who knows. I overall just kind of want to give like a little overall brief. I think nothing here is too surprising to see, which is good. That's a good thing. That means decks are doing deck things and people were testing and people kind of knew. I think like there's like 2 anomalies, and it really is just the Gurgit and the Orphis. But even then, like Gurgit was never a bad deck. It just got a slap, right? It wasn't like a tier 4 deck to take or anything like that. Like the Gurgit's skill is still good skill. It just lost Percival, but it doesn't mean like that Gurgit suddenly became like a bad deck to take. Is it tier 1? Like, I mean, no, but you know, it can still top. It's still high. Big number, I swing, I counterblast, I guard, I go around guard restricts. Like, that's still good to me in my eyes, but that's just me personally, so I'm not too surprised. Orphis is a little bit weirder because no one's been really presenting Orphis recently except for JJ. I think JJ was the last person in terms of Orphis that's an official top where we saw like an official result. He got 4th place with Orphis, and this was before the grade 3 came out, if I remember correctly. I think it's the last time we saw an official result with Orphis. So have you seen? No, I haven't seen any games that's on the V and premium side. I kid you not, guys. I've just been spamming the word Bushiroad. I've just been going like this. I'm just like waiting for the videos to show up. I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting and hoping, because I really want to see how they all came down. Which, by the way, I don't know if you guys saw the winter conference, but that was actually pretty cool to watch.